Welcome, everyone. We are going to get started. And at Lynn, if you could please do roll call.
Andy Robichuk.
Present.
Pam Horn.
Present.
Jody Lundquist.
Present.
Kennard Weaver.
Here.
Ken Warner.
Here.
Laura Oblinger.
Here.
Mark Healy.
Here. And with that, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Review of the agenda and approval of additions, deletions, rearrangements, or something new too, if you notice on the agenda, a call for any current financial or otherwise conflicts of interest. The agenda. Hearing none, we will continue. We are very excited to get the news earlier this week about Emma Dyer coming to speak to us today. I think many of us have been following along with all of the exciting things, but I don't want to steal the thunder. So if you could, Emma, please join us at the podium there and share your stories related to our mission, values, and action.
Hi, do you guys hear me? Loud,
Yes.
clear? All right, awesome. Hello, everybody. I've never been to one of these, so I'm honored to speak with you all, meet you all, and kind of get a chance to share our story. I'll try to be as genuine as possible because this truly has impacted us, and we're very grateful that we got the opportunity to do this. So I'm excited to hear that a lot of people have been following along with the air race. It was actually very life-changing. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Emma Dyer. I am a certified flight instructor at the college here. I have the privilege to teach many amazing students and get to see the impact that NMC has on all of their lives firsthand, which has been a really big blessing in my life to be able to teach. I was also the flight instructor in the Air Race Classic. So first of all, thank you for all of your guys' hard work and investment that we probably don't get to see for our continuous learning, because it does mean a lot to us students to get these opportunities that not many other people do get to have. So if any of you guys haven't heard of the air race, it is a transcontinental all-female air race. So it spans about 2,400 miles across the country. Now this is no easy feat. This is one of the hardest things I've done as an aviator, but NMC did a very, very good job of preparing us. We do an annual Florida trip every single year. And we are training commercial pilots to a very high standard. So we were able to compete at the highest level. This air race started in 1977. Some notable people that competed in it were people like Amelia Earhart. So this has been going on for a very long time, so it was an honor to compete in something super historical like this, and to not only for us, but to have NMC's name out there on a nationwide level. So we got this idea around March, and we had presented it to Alex and you guys, and it was something that we realized we really wanted to do and that we believed would be possible, and we presented it to you guys, and you really invested in us and made it possible. It took a lot of individuals. It wasn't only me and the two other students. We also had a ground crew of about 20 other students here at NMC who were in charge of weather planning, flight planning, booking hotels. So it took a village, but it was super fun to get everybody in the community involved and actually utilize our skills in the real world and to also compete. Let's see here. But it all started because somebody believed in us. So thank you for taking that chance on us. It's very rare that a college would invest in students, especially something that's an idea and very new, but it really paid off. A little bit of background on me. I did not go to NMC, and I'm grateful for that because I have so much perspective on how amazing this school is. I've seen a lot of colleges in aviation, and very few of them even come close to stacking up to NMC. So you should be very proud of the community that you've created here. We got to compete on a national level in this industry as female pilots. There were about 46 teams in total. 20 of them were collegiate, and NMC was one of them. So you're competing against the top schools like Auburn University, Western, UND, a lot of people who have a lot more planes than us, and we competed very well against them. We did run into a little bit of weather over there in Tornado Alley near Arkansas and Mississippi, but we were commended on our decision-making skills as pilots. We weren't willing to sacrifice our safety and the school's safety and reputation just to win a race, and that was something way more valuable that we learned in the process. We were able to bring back a lot of knowledge back to the school and experience, and not only that, but a lot of people recognized NMC. There were so many professional female aviators that want to work here who have never heard of NMC but wish they had sooner, because they were like, wow, this is such an amazing college. So I was really happy that we could get the name out there for NMC. So this college invested in me in many ways. One of that has been training. Thanks to Alex and a lot of the mentorships, I've gained some of the most valuable experiences, and I never thought I would be in a school that would invest in me so much. I've gained a lot of mentorship and a lot of perspective. There's not a lot of programs that further your knowledge like NMC does, so I'm very grateful. And I know that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you for listening to me share a little bit about the air race and what you guys have all done to impact all of us. And I welcome any questions you may have, because this is a very interesting topic to discuss.
Thank you so much, Emma. So quick question, I'm going to open it up to the rest of the board members too, but can you tell us a little bit about where you did go to school? And then my other question is, can you talk a little bit more about the race itself? You said we had an all-ladies team. Were you competing against or just other women aviators, or was it open to everyone?
I'll answer the second question first. So for the female air race, it's kind of split into two different groups. So you have the collegiate side, which is competing against each other, and then you have the non-competition side. So there's a lot of women in general aviation that just own their own aircraft. A lot of them would be retired pilots who just like to fly for fun. And so everyone gets a chance to compete, which is super, super cool. But there are about 20 colleges this year that were able to compete. Some schools like Purdue have been competing for 30 years. For NMC, this was our second one, which is really exciting. And then I went to school in Muskegon, if any of you know that area. It was a Part 61 school, and then I moved my training down to Vero Beach, Florida, where I was in the Delta Propel program. It was an airline academy, 141, with about 50 aircraft in one of the busiest deltas down in Florida. So I did a lot of my training there, and those were kind of two polar opposite things. But then I came to NMC, and I just found that it was like the happy medium between both. Kind of like the perfect program, because you get a lot of these bigger schools that are really structured and they're kind of like pilot factories, and then you have these Part 61 schools that are kind of cowboy schools, but NMC just kind of took professionalism to a whole nother level, but they still let you be flexible as an instructor. Like, every one of my students learns very differently, and I'm able to tailor that to them. And it's nice that it's an associate program, so that it's only 2 years, so they can get through it really quickly.
Very good. Other questions? Ken?
What got you to come here?
What got me to come to NMC? Let's see. So I had a very kind of random intervention, and I do believe that it was God. So whenever I was in Florida, there was a hiring freeze that was going on. And so I interviewed all across the country, and I got into Auburn Aviation, and then they were having some issues with their program. And so then I started looking into NMC, and I had never really heard much about it, but the more I looked into it, the more I realized how valuable it was. I had so many friends who had gone here. I never personally got to experience it, but then once I did and I started teaching here, I was blown away once I got here.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Emma, could you tell us about the students who you were with on the competition?
Yes, so one of the students is Rachel Cornoli, who just finished up her commercial here at the college, and then the other student is Grace Sonero. They're very active students, and they participate in almost everything that you can think of here at NMC because they really care a lot about the program. And I know if you ask them, this is one of the most life-changing things that they were able to do. because when you're a student pilot, not many opportunities appear like this in your aviation career. And so for them to get to experience something like this was pretty incredible for them. And I know they would have loved to be here. Unfortunately, they're not able to. But it was very life-changing for them. Thank you.
May
Other questions?
So with your enthusiasm for the
Mhm.
program
Yeah.
and the experience of this competition, what are you hoping happens next?
Oh my gosh. For NMC or for me personally?
For NMC.
For NMC. I'm hoping that we can do this next year. I'd be willing to fundraise as much as I possibly can because I believe that this is one of the hardest things I've done in my career, but one of the most valuable things. I would love to send another group next year, and I'd love to get more of the students involved. It was nice to see how many people were working behind the scenes and were able to get involved. So I hope we can do this next year, and I'm excited. I know we have a flight team that's about to start as well. So I'm just excited to see NMC grow and expand and get into a few different other areas.
Very good. Well, Emma, you are inspiring. We are so fortunate to have you be a part of this program and teaching our future aviators and doing exciting things like this race. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, and we are skipping ahead to G, strategic plan with Jason and Diana. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having us. Unfortunately, we were going to be joined by Lisa Rabeau, who is our Innovation and Strategic Growth Project Manager. She unfortunately had a family emergency right before this and so had to step out. So Diana and I will do the best job to cover her part, but we'll obviously get her in front of the board here sooner than later because she is a very dynamic person and I think you'd really enjoy hearing from her. So with this strategic plan, one of our goals with these strategic drivers was to give the board a little bit of a different flavor. So Diana and I are going to share with you our Living Our Brand strategy. And what you'll notice in your packet is something a little bit different, right? You have the full memo, which articulates our strategic drivers, the reason why we have those, the benefits that have come with those strategic drivers, and then a more in-depth look at how those are integrated throughout our various programs. And then for the presentation portion, we wanted to highlight a few specific areas where Living the Brand is driving the plan forward in a different direction than our previous strat plan. So like I said, you have the full memo in front of you. We have this presentation. We can do a little plan, do, check, adjust as we go through and continue to refine this for the board. So our strategic drivers were new, and I'm really glad that we have them. I mean, full transparency, I wasn't sure when we started, but I really do see the benefit from them, and I understand why our constituents, our stakeholders, and others kept bringing them forward. You know, when I first saw them, I thought we were kind of maybe just adjusting the plan and really not bringing these in as objectives, but I realize now they actually strengthen the plan. And so when we brought these in, we said, let's break down silos, let's have some continuity between each strategy and the objectives as a whole, and let's diversify the action teams. And these strategic drivers have done them. I am a firm believer in these strategic drivers, and looking back, lessons learned on the previous plan, I'm like, gosh, we could have done so much more had we implemented these in NMC Next. But I think that goes to the due diligence of the process, and this is something that Diana brought forth as we were working through this and hearing from our stakeholders that we had some really strong opportunities by having these strategic drivers thread across the strategies and objectives. If you recall, there's four strategies, or four strategic drivers that cut across the three strategies. And so we have Living Our Brand, which we're going to focus on today, and then community partnerships, which you'll hear from us next month on, and then stewardship and sustainability, followed by people first, which we'll look at later in the academic year. And so those four drivers cut across all of our areas. And so our first one that we wanted to drive into was Living Our Brand, because it's definitely one that seems to be the most mature, and it definitely is touching all our strategies. So I'm going to turn it over to Diana to talk about Living Our Brand.
Thank you. So living the brand came right out of our brand strategy, and the timing couldn't have been better. If you remember, we had the campus master plan. We were just wrapping up our first strategic plan under Jason and Nick's leadership, and then we also had just finished our brand strategy. So it was hot off the presses. We knew, as we talked about last summer when we presented at MCCA, like we can't lose this momentum, and it has to be more than just the visual part of it, which is hugely important. How do we incorporate brand leadership into our work at the college? How do we make sure our decisions help us continue to be unique and desirable? So that's how we weave the brand strategy into our leadership decisions. If you remember, one of the most integral parts of our brand strategy were our 4 brand pillars. And you can see them up there. You know them very well: culture of innovation, purposeful educational pathways, community cornerstone, and distinguished academic programs. That's really what holds up the brand, and there are many ways in which we see those and continue to invest in those. And so when we talk about brand leadership, we want to make sure that when we look at every strategy, every objective, even down to the action steps, are we holding ourselves accountable to making sure that we are aligned with the brand strategy? And we have some examples of what that looks like. So we're focusing here primarily on brand leadership, not brand management. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about brand management. What I mean by that, and it's in the board memo, the brand management, frankly, is some of the fun stuff, unless you're, also a strat plan nerd like me. But every beautiful logo that you've seen, the great new name tags, the beautiful flags you saw downstairs, our marquee sign right out in front of Parsons Stulen there, that's brand management. That's the stuff that you can easily see and feel, and it gets you excited and really brings great vibrancy to our college. I do want to give a shout out to our creative director, Joan Sodini, who is in the audience tonight. She is also our first strategic driver champion. So she is the one who is leading the strategic driver through the entire plan. She is the creative genius, though. Every creative decision you've seen related to the brand came out of Joan's brain and Joan's fingertips. So she is a understated creative genius at this college, but she is here representing the brand tonight. So I want to make sure to highlight Joan's leadership with the creative aspect. The other side is the brand leadership I mentioned. So how are we making decisions? And so we thought we would pull 3 examples from each of the 3 strategies. We could clearly pull more, where you may not initially think that it was related to the brand, but it absolutely is. So the first one we have here is strategy 1, which is future-focused education. And we talk about AI, right? So when we first mentioned AI, we all knew we needed it, but we didn't quite know how to focus it. And so when we talked about AI, we knew AI was part of NMC's culture of innovation, right? So that's a brand pillar. But we also knew that we had to tie it back to purposeful educational pathways, but also community cornerstone. And if you think of how NMC's AI strategy developed, it wasn't AI for AI's sake, but it was AI tied to what do our transfer universities need from our students? What do our employers need from our students? So we're holding ourselves accountable to pulling that AI goal all the way through to the purposeful educational pathways and community cornerstone. So really elevating the work of AI and focusing it. So that's brand leadership in action. The second one is around strategy 2, and I'll let Jason actually expand upon this one a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think one of the key parts when you looked at the first case study and when you look at the second one here is that by employing the strategic drivers, we're able to make the objectives more impactful. So when I look at our enrollment and student success strategy, which is critical for us, and we look at our objective about expanding our learning options so that we have more stackable pathways, more opportunities for our adult learners and our part-time learners. By taking the living our brand strategy and looking at our purposeful educational pathways, which was one of those brand pillars, we're able to kind of pull that out. And by leveraging our brand, we looked at diverse action teams. So when I look at who's actually implementing this objective, it doesn't just come from our traditional academic areas or our traditional extended education areas. It's all the pieces, whether it's the delivery of the content or how do we provide support services for our students. We look at the unique needs of our employers in the region, and I think you saw this firsthand if you saw some of the coverage around our industrial sewing class that we offered. It's this type of objective that drives that. And then it's the partnership piece. So you're seeing a little bit of blending between this strategic driver and our other ones, but our brand is to be that community cornerstone, and that means that we work closely with Networks Northwest, Michigan Works, and then obviously our NOMI Attainment Collaborative. So when I actually dug into this objective, you see how our brand influenced it and actually expanded it in a way that was more beneficial for our community.
The last example I'll give from Strat 3, and this is actually one of my favorites. Don't get me wrong, objectives 1 and 2 in Strategy 3 are super fun. That's a lot of vibrancy related to the brand. Objective 3 is great with the students, Objective 4 with the employer of choice. But honestly, for me, Objective 5 is about organizational efficiency, which on one hand could sound really boring, but when you talk about living the brand, if we're an innovative college, we better apply that to how we do the work of the college. And so that was one of the things that led to Objective 5. If we know that innovation is really in our bones, then boy, oh boy, we better practice what we preach with that. And so that's really one of the ways that we got to Objective 5, in addition to influence from our leadership council that says, you know, we can be doing things differently when it comes to how we operate the college. And so it's really practicing what we preach and making sure that when we say NMC is being on brand, that's what we mean by that. And on one hand, it sounds a little boring. On the other hand, it sounds really exciting, and that we are truly being innovative in the work that we do at the college. I do want to call out a couple of examples that Joan has done through her creative leadership in objectives, in strategies 1, 2, and 3. So all of the new design work that we're doing for our distinguished academic programs like aviation, you heard Emma talking about, all new recruiting materials for aviation, water studies, working with Building Tomorrow for Objective 2 with our construction trades, all new marketing materials. When you get down to Strategy 2, all new website, really influenced by the creative strategy, materials for admissions, and so you're seeing the brand management also throughout there. Strategy 3 with Troy and Patrick, working on making sure the campus master plan is also, you know, bringing in vibrancy with the new branding into the college. So you'll get a balance of both brand leadership and brand management throughout the plan.
Excellent. Thank you. And I can't say it enough. I mean, by using Joan strategically, by deploying her to objectives that need support, we're able to kind of push this living our brand driver through. And it's something that we're looking at for our other drivers as well. Do we need a champion behind maybe our people first or community partnerships? And so I think her work has really made this strategy or this strategic driver work well. Shifting gears a little bit, like I said, Lisa Rabeau would be here, but I know that she would appreciate me giving this update to the board. So I would like to give you a rundown about a renaming of the Office of Possibilities to the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So earlier in this meeting, you saw Emma, and she came up and spoke about her opportunity. And so not only was it our living our brand strategy that brought her here to the college, when we think about our distinguished programs and those that reach outside the area, she also mentioned support from the college. And so OOPS was able to provide her team support, so they were able to participate in the SafeCon flight team, and it was with the support of the foundation that makes that possible. And so what we realized through our due diligence, and Lisa came on board in November, was we had an opportunity. We were hearing from students, from faculty and staff, that they weren't always aware of the possibilities or the opportunities that came with the Office of Possibilities when it came to funding, when it came to mentorship, when it came to support. For many of them, it felt like something that was exterior to the college or maybe something that they couldn't take advantage of. And so we really take that listening to heart, and we realized that we had an opportunity to realign our innovation and entrepreneurship work. And so Lisa is currently launching an Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and it's really geared by the idea that it's not just an office or an organization, that it's something that we can use to support our students and make them aware of the opportunities that we have here at the college. And so what we were trying to combat was a little bit of confusion from the public side about what we were, but through this name change, we're able to execute some of that. So as you kind of see, you can kind of get a history of OOPS. I remember being in front of this board with Will Kitchen in the past and talking about the work as we launched that. And you can see kind of that historical side of it as we were doing a lot of work from the community side and bringing in others. And that'll continue. So we continue to support the Grove and Nick Beetleson and his work there. We're active participants in the community outreach piece. But what we wanted to do was make sure that there was more opportunities for our students. By changing that name, like I said, we'll be able to create a distinction between the work that NMC is doing and then also the work that the community is doing. In addition, we want to be able to leverage this new office to support more of the strategic plan and more of the goals that the board has have around revenue diversification and some of our other strategic change initiatives. We've already jumped into what the future is, and so we had a successful first 6 months under Lisa, and what we're looking at is to expand in fiscal year 27 with more student-led pitches, more coaching and mentoring. We want to align the ideas better to the strat plan. We want to work closer with the Experiential Learning Institute and Student Life. We've already gotten really great feedback from both of those entities in terms of this is a great opportunity for our students. And we're already planning outreach at Pinapalooza so that our students are aware of these pieces. So when you look at it, how does this fit in? What's going to be a little bit different? So through OIE, our goal, like I said, is to create that culture of innovation. We want that entrepreneurship mindset. We want to make sure that we provide our students, faculty, and staff with funding opportunities. And then specifically, we want those opportunities to support some of our strategic plan initiatives and our community connections. So we want to support more activities like Emma. We want to support that next idea that comes forth from the drone program. And we want to continue to look at opportunities to increase our enrollment and our retention, as well as those other areas that are highlighted in our strat plan. So when we dig a little deeper, we see this innovation effort being directly connected to our future focus education as we look at that experiential learning and work-based opportunities, and then our vibrant college campus, when we look at our belonging and our other needs that we have. And that's just the beginning of it. I know that this can do much more as we begin to transition into what's next. And so if the question would come up as to like, why now or why we're jumping into this, it just is perfect timing with new leadership and Lisa's role. It's a good opportunity to jump into this, especially with the cyclic nature of our students. We'll have many new students coming back this fall that weren't aware of OOPS in the past and are looking for that next entrepreneur innovation piece. We're also rebooting our student group. Unfortunately, with student groups at the college, they age out really quickly. And so we're looking for that next batch of students that want to be involved with innovation and entrepreneurship. And so this gives us a fresh start as we're doing that recruitment for those students. And then again, it makes us fit into part of the ecosystem. We continue to have support from 20 Fathoms, from Grove and others, and it makes it very clear as to what our efforts are. So I'm really excited. It fits in really well when we think about living our brand and those innovation pillars that are within it. And I'm really excited for what comes next. I mean, part of our work right now has just been cleanup of the process, making it easier for faculty, staff, and students to be aware of these opportunities. And one of the things I'm looking forward to as we launch that next stage here in fiscal year 27 is having Lisa come back and show you some of those highlights. I think you'll be excited by her work and you'll be impressed by her goals and initiatives around this new Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you both. Question, we'll start with OOPS. I, as a community member, before becoming a trustee, participated often in the community side of OOPS. A lot of the energy in the room week to week, month to month was folks, new entrepreneurs coming to town and that sort of thing. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the focus on continuing to engage the community and really from a nuts and bolts action in the community, being present in the community, what that looks like or how it might be different than it was before?
I think in many ways it'll look the same, if not even grow a bit. So just last week, Lisa was one of the judges at TC New Tech. Again, it was 4 companies that were Traverse City based. She was really excited by that. Some of them were actually connected to this building. And so she continues to provide that work. She's doing mentorship right now with some of the participants at Grove, and we continue to have an active component there. We want to leverage that mentor side, which was a great asset when we had students come and pitch, prep the pitch. Maybe they just had an idea and they need that connection through SCORE, through Northern Michigan Angels, through 20 Fathoms, through just community members that the foundation has connected us with. That's going to continue to grow and maintain. So I think in many ways we have an advantage because part of Lisa's role, she has a multifaceted position, but she's present, she's engaged with our student groups, she understands their needs, and it really can expand on the work that Will and others were doing in the past. So, Mark, I think if you're an outsider, I don't think you'd see much difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd only add add, when we talk about the brand pillars, innovation was how we teed up the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. But Community Cornerstone is a really critical pillar for us, as is the community strategic driver. And so I think even more than ever, I think we're committed to making sure that we continue to have those strong community ties.
Excellent. Kennard?
In what ways will OIE be more effective in creating individual and community prosperity than OOPS was?
So when I look at individual or community prosperity, I think we'll have to see, Kennard. When I look at OIE right from the beginning, one of the first steps for us is the support of our programs, our faculty, our staff, and our students. And so some of that would be academic improvements. Some of that I could see us launching new initiatives, new programs, new trainings, et cetera, which will directly impact the college. Related to that, though, we continue to ask and try to have more student-based startups. And so we're actually participating with NACE with their presidential pledge around more student-led entrepreneurs. We are also competing right now to get additional funding from NACE that could be used for student entrepreneurs. And so that'd be dollars that aren't connected to the college that we could give to local startups, preferably student-related as they grow. And so when I look at what OIE's role will be, I believe it'll have an impact on our programming and our students directly, and then we'll have to work with them and make the right connections to economic development arms and opportunities for capital to allow them to grow more. I'm hoping that we can take advantage of the blue tech momentum that we have, obviously with the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center, and kind of drive additional students or ideas around blue tech.
I think we'd go all down the table.
All right,
Go
group
ahead.
ten.
Okay. All right, first and foremost, outstanding. This is the right move. I have just a couple clarifying questions,
Yes.
just to make sure as I'm out in the community, I'm describing this correctly. Our OIE is more directed to NMC stakeholders. Will Office of Possibilities continue to be branded out in the community by the Grove or anyone else? So did we own OOPS? Is somebody taking OOPS?
No, the OOPS was always a community and educational component, and the community piece, the Grow piece, or Common Goods before that, they always had the most momentum. I mean, they always have the most people that turn up for the Tuesday-related events. They were actively involved in terms of creating that community connection. And even from the get-go, why it was a joint partnership, the community piece was obviously always stronger. And so we will continue to see the Office of Possibilities meetups on Tuesdays. At the Grove, you'll continue to see NMC logoing affiliated with it as we provide mentorship and other activities. But for our standpoint, when we talk about our innovation and entrepreneurship efforts, we'll be focused on the OIE portion.
Okay, and as our President's Council, but most importantly, our president has ideas that surface. As we know, he's a possibilitarian, and not all of the ideas that surface to him are in the strategic plan. So could OIE for us be also kind of the machine, if you will, that we run our own President's Council level new ideas and strategies through OIE to determine its relevancy and if it makes a place in the strategic plan? Is that another way for us? I have one more question.
Yeah, so when I think I think that's bigger than just the OIE. It's some of the work that Diana and I have been doing around the strategic change initiatives is looking at what opportunities are out there. Obviously, we wouldn't want to say, here's a great idea around beyond visual line of sight and drones, and you know what, you have to wait 3 years to this strat plan sunsets,
Right,
and then
right.
we'll get to that. And so part of that work is identifying those highest priority things that would have an opportunity. Some of the things I think we'd recognize quickly, they might need to wait, or there's things where, you know what, this is incredibly important, we need to look into this now, and then bubble that up accordingly. And then that might result in some prioritization changes when we look at, the overall initiatives of the college.
Okay, my final question is, we've transitioned into what we'll call this phase 1 of OIE, and I'm sure especially you two have thought about phase 2, 3, where this could grow. What sort of financial resources, potentially human resources, do you expect this could bring to our college for all the right reasons that the board may have to be thinking in advance about as well?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I'd point to was the support from the board and from President Nisley a year ago when we did some of the revamping around strategic change initiatives and then brought Lisa into the fold through some funds for transformation. That gave us a 3-year window. She works on this, she works on new revenue related to programs, and also some other strategic change related items, for instance, some of our relocation and trying to maximize the efficiencies of departments. And so I kind of view us as having, at the time, a 3-year window, so we're 6 months in, so 2.5-year window, where I want to keep pushing this initiative and then her work and see where we have that growth. Because ideally, I would like her and her role to be a permanent part of the college system, and then I think we could do even more than this. As we're looking at opportunities, maybe there's some economic pieces where we can show the impact, and that's exactly where we'd like to go. I think when you look at like our track record, we were able to accomplish a lot with the support of Will Kitchen. Working just as a consultant in a few hours, we've been able to ramp this up to somebody that's more integrated with the college, and I'd like to keep that going.
Yeah,
Good work.
And I'll just add to that. I think one of the things that Lisa really has going for her, she came from UMISS, she came from higher ed in a previous career, and so she also understands how higher ed works, and she is so dedicated to demonstrating the ROI and connecting it back to the student. So I'd say from that perspective, OIE is stronger than OOPS had yet gotten, and so it's hard to believe she's not even been here a year. And so looking out, we will have data that we can bring back to the board to demonstrate the success of the program in a way that we wouldn't have been able to yet without her leadership. And so I would just echo Jason. It's hard to believe that we kind of have her on a 3-year term right now, because we're already thinking, 5, 10, 15 years out.
That's the way we should do it, and the data will be very important moving forward. You're up.
Ken?
Yeah, just an observation first. I love the logo, like I think everybody else does, and the colors around campus are fabulous. Other than my shirt,
I wasn't going to say anything.
the podium there is the first time that I think I have seen an old one in a long time. And I have a sneaking suspicion that
Don't
when
let
we have
Joan
this
see it.
meeting next year, I won't see that one.
Yeah, that is correct. So we have a 3-year brand launch plan, and so huge push last year to get as much vibrancy and as excitement as much as possible with our key stakeholders. And then poor Joan, I'm like, now we get to pivot to like interior signage. And I'm like, that's not quite as fun, but it's critically important. And so Troy has been a fabulous partner in helping us prioritize and working with Troy and Patrick on phase 2 and then in the future phase 3. So yes, we'll keep rolling it out.
Okay, I was just making it a joke, really. Apparently it didn't work very well. But I do have something serious I wanted to ask about. I love what was written here under fiscal year 27, which we're in. And you referred to the pitches, the student pitch competition and coaching, student makers market, and then a faculty and staff grant competition. Was there any thought of having a faculty and staff pitch competition instead of grants, or are they supposed to be the same in effect?
It goes back and forth. So we did have faculty and staff pitches. That's how Nick Roster was able to get microplastics funding. There was other ones. Tony was able to secure some drone related dollars. What we realized with the traditional pitch path is the timing didn't always work for our faculty members. And so feedback that we received from our faculty members was, could we look at other opportunities? There's a way to use a grant process with some sort of innovation criteria rubric attached to it to make some decisions. We're kind of in that plan, do, check, adjust. So we're feeling that part out and then seeing how that lines up with the pitch portion. And so, we've gone back and forth both ways, and it was one of those opportunities where we thought for 27 we'd try some grants, but that doesn't mean that we won't have faculty staff pitches in the spring as well.
Okay, and I really do love what you've got here for the students, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that works.
We're really excited. Like Diana said, Lisa's, because of her background, has a strong student connection, student focused.
Andy?
I really liked the talk of how this is much more on entrepreneurship than OOPS was. Not that OOPS wasn't, but entrepreneurship is really coming out of that. And you almost might want to, I don't know if it's too late for brand name changes, but you almost may want this to be the Entrepreneurship Innovation Office, because you're really trying to emphasize the entrepreneurship. If you do that, you can have AEIO for you.
I will say, we went round and round about 7,000 times the order we should put it, and I believe the reason we landed on OIE, and I made President's Council promise that they would never shortcut it as OIE. I was like, no, it's OIE. But that because it's industry, like within higher ed, that's what the offices are. And so we want to make sure that we also get credit when we think of NACI and others, you know, amongst our peers, that we're getting the credit we deserve for that work.
Jody?
All right, I think it's fantastic that it has been renamed. I think that it clarifies and definitely demonstrates a sharpening of our mission around the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. My question is that with building out and deepening the student engagement piece of the team, what, if you could describe, is their own entrepreneurial or operating background and then supporting this innovation and entrepreneurship? And second part is, how could the board or the community plug in founders and operators to support that work beyond, you know, OOPS exists, but in a different realm than the entrepreneurs, operators, founders that we have as resources in our community?
So I think we'll have additional opportunities for plug-in on there. We're fortunate to have a strong base, but as we have more student-led projects and other ideas come forward, we need to strengthen that. And so I think we'll be working to identify what those skills are and do more connections. And so part of our work, Jody, will be outreach to say we have this need or with this group, et cetera, on there, so that we can have somebody maybe that's in the infancy stages learn how to pilot their way through, you know, different stages of an idea to a startup. Or it could be something completely shifted. We were just working around some mentoring for a small nonprofit ag idea. It was a student-led business, and they needed support on the nonprofit side, which was just different than what we've done in the past. But I mean, we're obviously an area that has a strong nonprofit presence, and so we're able to pull in some mentorship on there. So we will have some specific needs, and I think some of that will come as we build out this particular year. When we look at the team itself, we try to, it's a small team, right? And so we try to leverage who we have available both at the college, and then also we bring in those mentors and others from outside. So for instance, we were just doing some startup related work. We were able to tap some individuals that we had connections with through Grand Valley State University, as well as through Grove, and we were able to bring some of those expertise in. And then when it obviously becomes a tech-based solution, we have strong partners in 20 Fathoms. I think Lisa's biggest strength is her ability to design and build programming, and then also understand what some of those student needs are. She also has a really sharp mind for what works and what doesn't work, and then also in terms of, she's pretty clear as to numbers that are needed for ROI or for something to have continuous success. Her other hat that she wears is around our PACER, our program sustainability enhancement reviews, and so she's gotten to be very focused on what it takes to have a vibrant program or a successful program, and so she's kind of able to leverage that with the educational component. Obviously, as we get into something that becomes more nuanced, that somebody needs specific startup-related support, we have to call in others for that. And I think we're fortunate that we have a pretty strong bench around here that can help us.
One conversation we just had this afternoon, Lisa and I, she had just come from a meeting with Zach and Lisa Thomas, our Dean of Students. Zach's our alumni director or manager. And they were talking about alumni mentors. So it's something that's very front of mind for her on leveraging that, connecting the alumni to the students, and her helping be that link between with that entrepreneurial and innovation mindset, linking the two. So I know that's something that's front of mind, that she's like, we should do more with this. How can we get it off the ground? And so she's going 100 miles an hour.
Any other questions? Thank you both. I think it's exciting. Last thing, exciting, another opportunity for NMC, for the students to be engaged in a wider way with the business community through mentorship and other ways. It's very exciting. Thank you so much. Now is the time for public input, and anyone expressing interest in addressing the board, filling out a blue form prior to roll call, and then the topic must be related to business within the jurisdiction of the board. And comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. The board will take the public remarks into consideration, but will not comment at this time on that input. And to the podium, I'd like to welcome Mr. Fred Bimber. Welcome, Mr. Bimber. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, good evening. Fred Bimber, 1223 Randolph Street, Traverse City resident, taxpayer and voter. I've emailed information to the trustees. I urge you to, at one of the board's next meetings, pass a resolution urging that TIF 97 not be renewed, not be extended. For 29 years now, college tax revenues have been diverted for purposes of TIF 97. It's a program intended to provide funds to subsidize development in Traverse City's downtown. But the downtown is thriving right now. By all reasonable measures, it's doing quite well. There's lots of new construction. There are opportunities for additional construction in the downtown. Within the plan to extend it for 20 years, the planners cite 26 construction projects that they believe will come to fruition within the next 20 years, and they total over $500 million of additional taxable value projected to occur. They don't need college money anymore. College money, college tax revenue, should be used for college purposes. Use it for the college's mission, use it for the programs you have. We've already heard this evening of 2 of your programs that could well use that money in doing great things for students and for the college. To look at the magnitude of what's involved in this decision, the best available projection is that over the 20-year extension, TIF 97 would divert from college tax revenue $12.25 million. Clearly, it's in the college interest that that not occur. The best thing you can do at this point is, unfortunately, just to urge to take a position to let the public know, to let voters know, that you as trustees of the college recognize that it's in the best interest of the college that TIF 97 not be extended. You have already, over the past 29 years, seen $3.7 million of college tax revenue diverted to the TIF 97 fund. That shouldn't be continued and extended. The voters are interested in what the college thinks about this. I was part of the campaign to give city residents a chance to vote on this, and frequently we would be asked by voters, what does the college think of this? What does Beta think of this? Let them know. That can help to form the community attitude towards this potential extension of TIF 97.
Thank you, Mr.
It's
Bimber.
clearly in the college's best interest.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And next, we are going to move into Dr. Nisley's update.
I'm going to start with something just from this afternoon, so it's really fresh and top of mind. And I'll preface it by saying a big hats off to Todd Neibauer, who organizes our annual cybersecurity incident response tabletop exercise. So this afternoon, a number of us from President's Council, myself included, with about 20 other people in the college, got to participate in that annual tabletop exercise. And if you're not familiar with tabletops, essentially it's a tool that helps us ultimately enhance our preparedness. And it simulates real-world kind of incident, and that's exactly what we did today. And I think it left us all feeling a little bit uncomfortable in a really positive way of good hands-on learning. And I'd also highlight Stephanie Cardwell, who's an alumna of NMC, facilitated it. She's also a senior network engineer at Munson, and she's done some of our past facilitation and does an outstanding job with it. But what we got to experience this afternoon was the mimicking of an event, and then for us to figure out how do we respond to that event. And it had a lot of unfolding scenarios, so it wasn't a scripted kind of event, but it was something that really unfolded in real time. I would say what I got to witness at the end of those 2 hours, because I had to play the role of auditor, or I couldn't, jump in, so I could only watch and listen to what was going on. But incredible decision-making, incredible communication, incredible operational continuity that was being played out, and, as you might expect, gaps. And that's what we hope to find is, not just what are we doing well, but where are there gaps? Because it's in those gaps that we want to have continuous improvement and learning. But I think the last thing I'd say that I took away and I shared with the group at the end wasn't just the decision-making itself or the creative problem-solving, but it was what I would call the tone. It was a tone of incredible respectfulness of this group of people in the room together. They were all incredibly solution-oriented and highly collaborative. And Stephanie asked us at the end, what from this is going to keep you awake at night, in terms of the gaps. And I said, for me, it's just the opposite. What's going to make me sleep better is seeing how well that team worked together. So I just say all that to say we're doing things like cybersecurity tabletop exercises to help improve our incident response. The second thing I'd share, switching gears, Jason alluded to it, and if you didn't get to see it this weekend, there was a great 9 and 10 news coverage, actually from last week, about our new industrial sewing program. And in that spirit of the new Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, boy, that's entrepreneurial mindedness in action. And again, I'd call out Elizabeth Sonnabend and Laura Stevens, who've led that literally over the last couple years, trying to figure out how do we make that happen. And 2 big roadblocks that we've had has been around trainers, because as you might guess, it's something that's incredibly unique, and trying to find trainers in that area. Even working with our partners, we've had challenges. But we had Nuco Furniture step up, and we're going to get 2 trainers who work within Nuco. And the other piece is equipment, that obviously it's incredibly expensive equipment, things we couldn't afford. We were able to work out a deal where between Nuco and Tentcraft and the other business partners, we're going to utilize their equipment. So we came to a creative solution. It took a couple years to get there. But I think what we're proud of now is we have a new 6-week long course that at the end of that course will provide a certificate to the participant, and then an opportunity for an apprenticeship with one of those employers. So really proud, I think, of that example of how we're, just one more example of how we're trying to prepare a workforce with talent. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that article yet, I'd encourage you to take a look to 9 and 10 News from last week. Just a couple things from the actual mid-month update that I want to shine the light on.
the state budget, the key message there is that funding is flat. We had roughly about $11.2 million appropriation, and again, for practical purposes, it didn't go up, but a very, very small amount. We also have no funding from items. Remember, that's the infrastructure, kind of the mini capital kind of funding that was a possibility. That was not included, and neither were we in capital outlay projects. So I don't think I'd be overstating to say it was a bad budget. But I don't want to be totally negative about it. I think there were two things that were incredibly positive, and one of those was the Michigan Reconnect, lowering of the age eligibility, very positive thing, which, I think the theory of change is that should ultimately increase our enrollment with that age being decreased. And second, there was a dual enrollment reimbursement program, which again, the theory of change is that if districts have that and they don't have to pull from their general funds, it should encourage them, and we subscribe to that too. So I think those are two really positive things. The good news is, thanks to Troy, we budget very conservatively, so we budgeted for this, and we have a balanced budget because of that. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say it out loud. The state appropriation isn't even keeping up with inflation, and given the nature of the politics that surrounded it, I'm not real optimistic looking to next year's budget either. But the good news is we've got a budget. The second thing I'd say, last month I shared with you that Jason got an invitation from Sigler, the partnership between the University of Michigan and NOAA, which is the Cooperative Institute for Great Lakes Research. Jason and his team have put forth or submitted that application at the end of June, and we're expecting a response by late August. So fingers crossed. And again, I remind you, that's a once in a 10-year opportunity because it's a 10-year long agreement. So the good news is we're at the right place at the right time with the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center coming online. So good news there. Also, as it relates to Frick, the Reshore event, and if you're not familiar, Mish Auto puts that on. We host it at the Haggerty Center, and it really combines some things like blue tech and drones and outdoor innovation. We've got a lot of folks, myself included, who are going to be part of that later this week. So we're excited to be holding that on our campus. The other thing I'd mention, if you were down at Cherry Festival, you obviously saw NMC as we're kind of in the front row seat there at Cass and the Parkway. And hats off to Lisa von Reichbauer, who really coordinated a number of departments who came out and staffed that tent, and was probably one of the greatest examples of community outreach over a almost couple-week period that we were down there. And if you didn't get to see us in the parade, you missed something, because to Diana's point, thanks to Joan and many others, we had a great branded NMC float that got lots of attention. So good news there. Last couple things I'll say with regards to the foundation. I don't think I can say this enough, but you read in Catherine's report, our best year fundraising ever with the budget year coming to an end, 16.3 million. Our best year ever was about 10 million, and that was during the campaign Be What's Possible. So a tremendously positive year. Hats off to Catherine and the whole foundation team. And as you know, we're now moving into a new campaign. We have put together the campaign steering committee, the co-chairs. We're reaching out now to the honorary chairs. And this last week, we had our first gathering of the steering committee. So things are off and running there. I think the last thing is just to highlight in terms of points of pride, thank you to the trustees who were able to show up this last week when we had U.S. Representative Bergman on campus, who put together a 75th anniversary proclamation and had incredibly positive things to say about the college while he was there, and it was a great way to recognize and honor our 75th anniversary. I think I'll stop there for any questions or comments.
Yeah, I actually have one. It's more a comment than a question. Gabe's report about the legislative directed spending initiatives, there were about a third of the 419 proposals or requests that were submitted that were funded to the tune of $125 million. The map that he has there is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, there is nothing above the midpoint of Michigan and nothing at all in northwestern Michigan. I think we need to use that, kind of rub it in the noses of the legislature, and
Yeah.
it's pretty powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it tells a very clear story.
Other questions?
One point on the change from the 25 to 21 for the reconnect. I think one of the things that came up at last board meeting was a number of people got surprised by the amount of money that was not available that was not used for scholarships. That percentage was lower. And I would just remind you, that's probably something we'd all like to see a presentation for, with this change even more so. How are we gonna use that? What are we gonna do about it? And how are we thinking about that?
Yeah.
I'd just like to comment on that. My grandson at NMU, the foundation office called him at least once a month, said, we have another scholarship here that's going with nobody in it. How would you like to come down and apply for it? Maybe we could take more of that approach.
Yeah. I think next month Todd will be presenting out. There's a committee that he's leading right now that's pulling together to help us through that question.
I've got a question, sorry, Jason, put you on the spot here, related to President Nissley. Can you talk about a little bit more about the timeline is there any kind of, anything that we can do from a, push for our application within the Ziegler Group? Any folks, that we can reach out to advocate or anything like that in this process? Or is it just, we just gotta sit back and wait, which is what I hate doing? Anything that I'm excited about?
So we're in good spot. As Nick said, it'll be mid to late August, we'll find out. We got really high level brief feedback from one of the constituents that saw our app and said it looked very good. In addition, a couple partners, including Cleveland Water Alliance, that we do work with the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center on, have pushed and shared that we'd be a good applicant along with Lake State, Grand Valley State University, and MTU. So we have, 4 existing members that are already saying that they work well with us. One of the things that I think is beneficial, Mark, is we've already led at least 2 or 3 of their innovation workshops over the last year. One in March, and then one in Winnipeg in May. And so they're already familiar with our work. So I don't think there's much we can do from advocacy. I think we set ourselves up well with all the pre-work. I mean, they know our director, John Letchko, by name. They reach out to him regularly. I think we're in good shape.
Great job, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Nick. So I think about a year ago, for the chair comments, about a year ago, I had a conversation with Warren Call with Traverse Connect. As I think preparing for the chair's seat, Laura asked me a question, and I was kind of stunned because I hadn't thought about this. But she said, "What is kind of," and Nick was in the meeting too. "What is kind of the theme, or what is going to be your focus as board chair?" And I was like, "Oh." Well, let me get back to you on that. But it was really something that kind of it seems obvious. And in a governance role, we are a board where we have 1 employee. We are not in operations. We are not partaking in the daily operations of this college. However, AI is going to permeate the world in a way in which the things that this board, when we're looking at governance and the vision and approval of strategies moving forward, that I think it's important that we have a general baseline of understanding as best we can as laymen to serve that end. And so over the course of the last 6 months, speaking with and having really great conversations with folks, trustees here, and I look forward to, because we're currently working on kind of a more open engagement, broader than just the board, but having a board, our board appropriately participate in the ability to gain enough knowledge and then have a continuing learning piece for the board in order to be able to have enough information for our role, our governance role in the board. So look forward to working with Nick, working with Lynn and others, and more to come on that, but we're looking to hopefully have that happen very soon. And that is all I have. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Consent items. Would look for a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Kennard. And second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. And any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And it passes. Thank you. On to the action items. We have item R, board policies. I need a recommendation for the adoption of the following board policies on a first read basis.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, that was Kennard?
Ken.
Ken, thank you. Laura and Ken. And any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And that action item passes. On to another board policy recommendation to adopt the following board policies on a second reading basis.
I'll move.
Thank you, Jody, and supported by Laura. Any discussion? None. Then, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. And that passes. Thank you. All right, moving on to T. I need a motion to support the resolution in support of the Denos's AAM accreditation application.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Kennard. And support from Ken. And any discussion?
I just have a comment. I think we should just take note of the fact that Craig has done and is doing all the things that this museum needs to do to solidify its base and to upgrade the operations of the museum.
I was basically going to say the same thing. He's doing an extraordinary job.
And if I may too, I would like to say, thinking about this process and hearing him explain what it is, I feel like it's so on brand with this organization to have our college punching above its weight. Not to say that in a negative way, but just an extraordinary thing for our campus and for our community and for our brand. And it just all fits and makes sense with the brand. So fantastic work at the Denos. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the resolution is supported. Snow removal in July. We got to plan ahead here. I need a motion to recommend the authorization for the administration to enter into a contract with Quality Seal Coating for snow removal for fiscal year 27, 8, and 9 school years with not to exceed amount for each of the 3 years of $200,000. And the contract will be funded by the fiscal year 27 through 29 general operating budget.
So moved.
Laura, thank you. Second?
Support.
Thank you, Jody. And any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Yes.
This year, with a lot of snow, what did we spend on it this year?
We spent, with haul-away costs, we spent, I think, $270,000 with the significant amount of snow. And we do have around a $300,000 budget. So this is just the parking lot piece. If we need any support for sidewalks, which our grounds team generally takes care of, that additional budget would support sidewalks and hallway costs.
Okay, thank you.
Just a point of clarification, we're able to prove something for a budget for a year from now for a budget that has not been approved?
This is approving a contract that we have in place, and so we better make sure the budget's in place for it.
Okay, just wanted to clarify and make sure.
Was some of the, because based on what we spent this year, which was a bumper crop of snow, but, you know, for what we spent this year, was the price that we negotiated, the 200,000 per year, based on a 3-year contract as part of that? Is that?
Yes, as I understand it, they bid 200,000 for each of the next 3 years, so they should not bill us any more than that for the parking lot, general parking lot removal piece.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the motion passes, thank you. Next item, V, top coating and sealing. I need a motion to recommend the authorization for the administration to enter into a contract with Quality Seal Coating, Inc. in the amount of $52,777 to complete the work described in the accompanying memo. The source of the funds is going to be the fiscal year 27 fund, plant fund deferred maintenance budget.
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Can I have a second?
Support.
Thank you, Jody. And any discussion?
This was the one that was the only single bid?
Correct.
Is there any, do we know why the others didn't bid it?
It might have been timing. We did ask for these bids, I think, back in May, and some of the contractors may have already decided to take other work.
And forgive me, this is likely in the packet, and I did not read this. The amount of surface area, we're talking about all of any asphalt that needs to be sealed throughout the campus for this number?
We actually we rotate every 3 years. the
Okay.
lots, so
Because this seemed really, like, that did not register in my brain.
It's low, and we're doing fewer lots because Cherry Lot right now is getting covered with the geothermal project.
Right.
But this will take care of fine arts, aviation, ramp, the Juniper Lot, Auto Tech, APL, Parsons Stulen's, the PE Fire Lane, and Birch Lot.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, and all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the motion carries. Thank you. And with that, that finishes our action items. Review of follow-up requests. Is there any follow-up, Lynn?
I just made a note of the scholarship data that's been brought up before.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.